And a very good evening to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. Yes, sir, we made it through another week. It's Friday evening here on the Spice Hour. Kind of a unusual Friday evening, but I'll tell you, it's one which put a really good feeling in my heart. I saw Grenadians, or let me rephrase that. I heard Grenadians respond to a call to salute the people who have been serving us through this little episode called Corona or COVID. Now, we're going to talk about that a little later on when Brian chimes in. But as you may have heard, I think it was the Grenada Tourism Authority, they put out a call for everybody to make some noise tonight at 6 o'clock. And then sometime yesterday, they changed that to 7 o'clock tonight, all right? Well, let me tell you, at the stroke of 7 o'clock tonight, there was so much noise in this town. I'll tell you, I thought to myself, hey, so Grenadians can and will actually respond when calls are put out. I'm so proud of us, Grenada. I'm really proud of us. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me take an early little break here tonight, and we're going to come on back and get started. Because, we're supposed to have Mr. Pitt. Haven't actually seen him show up there yet, but he's been sent the invitation. And I'm assuming that he will be joining us very shortly. So just before we get down to that, we'll take a quick little break here. Learn a little bit about this virus. And then we'll come back and get all cranked up.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Today I'm going to show you how to do a homemade mask, since it's now being suggested that when people go out into the public, they use a mask. Now, I know that it's very tough to come by masks, so I'm going to show you how to make a homemade mask. First of all, this is fairly easy, and this can be washed every day. Just get a piece of material. In this case, I've used a scarf, and fold it in half like this, and then fold it in half again. And then what you do is you would need 2 rubber bands like this, and you put these rubber bands in on either end, like so, and then take the rest of the material and fold it to the middle like this. And you have a mask that you can use when you go out, like this. Very simple, and this can be used to go out to ensure that droplets don't get to you and to discourage you from actually touching your face. In the meantime, I ask that you wash your hands frequently, don't touch your face, use hand sanitizers when you can, try not to eat in public without eating utensils, and when you can, wear a mask out, which can be made at home, as I showed you. Thank you very much.
That had to be the shortest
Today I'm going to show you how to do a homemade mask, since it's now being suggested that when people go out into the public, they use a mask.
How did she manage to get back there? How did she get back there? Wow. Okay, folks, I'm not quite ready for him yet, but I just want you to know that he is around. Take a look, take a look, take a look. There he is. And boy, oh boy, do I hope that we can hear him tonight. Good night, Mr. Pitt.
Good night, George.
Wow. Not only am I hearing him, he's popping my eardrums. All is well, sir?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Mr. Pitt, it is a pleasure to see you, sir, and have you in the audience tonight. Just let me do the rundown and take care of a couple of things, and then we'll get to you, okay?
Do what you have to do.
I'll do what I have to do. Thank you very much, Mr. Pitt. Now, what are we going to do tonight? First of all, we're going to salute Grenlec. Everybody knows a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ray Roberts. Mr. Roberts penned an editorial yesterday, which is captioned, "Saluting Grenlec, but my tears are plenty for Grenada." Folks, I was so moved when I read this thing yesterday, just before publishing it on the Grenada Broadcast website. I thought, you know what? First opportunity I get, I got to share this with you guys. And so I'm going to run that by you right after I'm through with the introductions. There's also another piece from a gentleman who has been around right now. This guy has just gone viral on social media over the past 3 years. His name is Nas Daly. Young guy who travels around the world. He's trying to create a different world from that in which we live right now. And he does some incredible pieces. And he's just done a piece on China and the debt trap that this country is putting us into. Short piece, about 3 minutes. I'm going to run that by you. Then, of course, we have Mr. Pitt, and we are going to wrap up tonight's program with the National Report from the Government Information Service. Having gotten those preliminaries out of the way, here's the piece that was penned by Mr. Ray Roberts yesterday. If you like, you can go back to the GrenadaBroadcast.com website, follow along with me. Grenlec, WRB/GPP, is definitely a model employer The workers represented by TAWU and the company under the leadership of Mr. Robert Blanchard, together have built an institution of great repute, one that all of Grenada ought to be proud of. Grenlec's awesome hallmark is the company's reliability and consistency 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days per year. Your electricity is guaranteed. And industrial challenges are generally amicably resolved. Its service is unparalleled in the long history of electricity in Grenada, a complete contrast to the period when it was managed by the current Minister of Works, Gregory Bowen. Under his stewardship, you would be very lucky to receive electricity 8 hours per day. Equally outstanding is Grenlec's track record supporting community and social development across the nation. The company has funded libraries and schools, sponsored the inter-secondary schools debate, invested in lighting and improving playing fields, supported several children's and senior citizens' homes, and the list can go on and on. In summary, Grenlec is head and shoulders above all private sector companies operating in Grenada when it comes to supporting social development. So it begs the question, why would the government of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell do everything possible, including trickery and lies, to rid the workers and the people of Grenada of a par excellent workplace? This May Day, International Workers' Day, as a former General Secretary of the Grenada Trade Union Council, I encourage workers to recognize Grenlec. It is definitely a genuinely good corporate citizen. The workers employed with the company have a tremendous contract, which, among other things, provides for profit sharing, health insurance, and a top-of-the-line health and safety care system. Sadly, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell will close this glittering chapter of the current Grenlec, having announced in Parliament that his government will take control of the company. First, Dr. Mitchell must find hundreds of millions of dollars from a cash-strapped Grenada treasury to pay in compensation after his government lost its case in the International Court of Justice against WRB, GPP, Grenlec. In the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic, the question is, where will the Prime Minister find this sum of money that is way beyond the capacity of the national budget for 2020? Speculation is that the Chinese or some unknown characters involved in the selling of Grenadian passports will come to the rescue. Again, it begs the question, at what price to the people of Grenada? Grenlec's return to the control of government, and more so under the stewardship of the Ministry of Works led by Gregory Bowen, ought to be a frightening experience going forward. The Worrell Commission, which investigated the Bowen-managed Grenlec 3 decades ago, during the period when Dr. Mitchell served as Minister of Works, reported that corruption was rampant in that state-owned entity. Go read the report and see for yourself. In conclusion, the Prime Minister has spent much of his political life raging a spiteful and bitter war against Grenlec, which finally ended in the International Court with a crushing defeat and a huge bill for the taxpayers. His shameless, big ego does not allow him to graciously acknowledge defeat. Instead, he chooses another of his clever practices, offering a suffering Grenadian people a 30% cut in their electricity bills for 3 months, while making absolutely no mention that WRB GPP's compensation is astronomical. He conveniently forgets to tell Grenadians that the current Grenlec shareholders must be paid millions of dollars. These shareholders will all run to the bank happily, thanks to the kind compliments of another Keith Mitchell giveaway. What a pity that so many Grenadians are susceptible to lies and trickery at the expense of morality and decency. It troubles me that for so long, so many citizens continue to turn a blind eye to a long, extensive list of unfulfilled promises, going back to the use of state income to fund a failed call center, a lavish turning of the soil in Mount Hartman for several hotel projects, the announcement ahead of the 2018 general elections. Remember that one? That Grenada is ready for a period of economic prosperity with the Russian discovery of oil and gas in our waters. And of course, the Victoria Shrimp Farm and St. Patrick Hotel projects. We salute WRB, GPP, and the workers for building a model institution. Looking ahead, we salute the WRB, GPP, and workers for building a model institution. Looking ahead to the government control of Grenlec, we pray that history does not repeat itself under the Mitchell-Bowen stewardship. Whew. Pilgrims, I can see him licking his lips to have his say about what you just heard. But he's going to have to wait a little bit. Mr. Pitt is going to be chiming in on what you just heard in just a wee bit. But first, I want to play this piece for you and have you ask the question, how close is what you're about to see to the truth? This is NAS Daily.
Hi. What you see here is $10,000 on the table. You can take this money as a loan, but I will charge you a little bit of interest rate. Like most people, you take the money and you go buy a nice car. But in 10 years, it's time to pay me back. And because of interest rates, now you owe me $20,000 and not 10. You will say, I don't have money to give you. And if you don't, I take your car and a piece of your house. This is how debt works. And after 3 years of traveling the world, I noticed that this is exactly what China is doing. For example, take the small island nation of Sri Lanka. This developing country needs money and China has a lot of it. So Sri Lanka took billions of dollars in Chinese loans. It was easy money just there to be taken. And with that, they built skyscrapers, highways, airports, and shipping ports. The country grew and prospered. But few years later, this easy money came with interest rates, and Sri Lanka was so much in debt that it couldn't pay back China its money. And the only way out was to give China control of what they had built. In other words, Sri Lanka lost a piece of its home to China because of debt. This is the Chinese money trap. And it's a real thing I saw all over the world. In Papua New Guinea, I saw $2 billion in loans given by the Chinese to build skyscrapers, infrastructures, and ports. But there is no way this remote developing country can pay it back or its interest rate, and the only way out is to give China control of the country. In the Maldives, Pakistan, Malaysia, Laos, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Egypt, Kenya, and South Africa, the same thing is happening, and many countries are struggling to pay back Chinese loans. If you look closely, all these infrastructure projects like highways, ports, and bridges connect to China through the sea or through the land to form something far bigger, far more powerful than just a bridge. A new Silk Road. The world is already made by China, and I think slowly it will be owned by China. Don't get me wrong, building bridges, ports, highways, and airports is a great thing for the people and the country, but they come at a very high cost. And when these countries can't pay back the loans, these countries will lose their homes. One thing my parents had taught me is that there's no such thing as a free lunch or a free ride. So if we're not careful with our money or other people's money, then we better start learning Chinese. Xia Qiu Xian.
Oh, boy, what are you laughing at, Mr. Pitt? I've given you a lot, haven't I? Huh?
Yes, you have.
Wow, Mr. Pitt. Which one are you going to start with?
What a way to start this Friday night.
All right. I tell you what, Mr. Pitt, I'm anxious to get started too, but I just want to acknowledge the presence of our pilgrims out there so they don't, get kind of antsy at us. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Thea Richards is saying hi from Arkansas. Trini62 has arrived and she's plunked herself down. She says, a reach. Well, welcome, Trini. Ryan Jabon saying good night. And Ryan has some advice to you guys. He says, please do not follow the reckless claims of POTUS regarding taking disinfectant. Quiet, Brian. Brian, quiet. Please do not follow the reckless claims of POTUS regarding taking disinfectants internally. Read the cure of the COVID-19 pandemic virus. Okay. I saw a picture today which just had me cracking up. Anyhow, John says, coughs and sneezes spread diseases. Hey, that rhymes nicely, John. And that brought a laugh to Trini. He says, you think his behavior is a symptom of early dementia? Referring to POTUS. I don't know. Ryan says, he sure has some neurocognitive and psychosocial impediments. Oh, Ryan. Okay. Let me see what else here. John says, read Grenlec. Just another 2 a.m. ghost flight due to land at MBIA with the new owners. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to hear about another flight coming in the wee hours. Theo says, and he's referring to the piece there by Ray Roberts, he says, this writing is indeed food for thought. Ryan says, when the fox could not get the luscious and succulent grapes, the fox proclaimed to the world that the grapes were sour. Remember that? Chinese money trap indeed. It includes the new Chinese Silk Road. Theo says of that piece by Nas Daily, he says that guy spoke not just a book, but an encyclopedia on China. Okay, Mr. Pitt, you are unleashed. Go.
But George, I'm going to let you guide me through this thing because it's a maze. This guy called Trump. Let me start there because my grandmother used to say, "What is joke for school children is death for crapo."
Yes, I remember that.
You remember that, George?
Yes, sir.
This man is the leader of the free world. The
Yes.
United States of America, the greatest country on the face of the earth, they say.
Not anymore.
This guy, and it's absolutely amazing. What he said today, he was being sarcastic.
No, no.
Oh my goodness. But the hard thing about it, George, the serious thing about it is that while Trump is doing all these antics and encouraging people to demonstrate, now this guy might very well cause some rioting in the United States, having different states open at different times. It can cause some problems. And that is being promoted by most of the major networks. This guy is using the major networks in the United States like you would not believe. I mean, this is ridiculous. But I tell you, if the ridiculous nature of his actions continue, America will remain the epicenter of this virus for a long time. And if that happens without a vaccine, we will suffer. SGU, all the apartments in the south of the island, our economy is based on what happens in the USA. So maybe we should not be laughing at this guy, but doing all we can to make sure that he does not get reelected in the United States. Call our family, call our friends, and make sure that this guy is not reelected, because if he is, we're in big trouble.
Thanks for the reminder, Mr. Pitt.
No, we have to remind ourselves all the time, Ray wrote a very good piece, George.
Before you get to Ray, let me say this, I mentioned that I saw a photograph today which really cracked me up. It's a picture of somebody in a hospital with his pants down. He's bent over.
Yeah, I saw.
You saw that? He's bent over on a table. And there's a very long hose. I mean, it's almost as big as a fire hose, okay? One end of it is attached to a part of this gentleman's anatomy. And at the other end of the hose is a big bottle of Clorox. And I thought, oh my God. Anyway, at least he's giving the United States and the world a laugh. Go ahead.
No, he's not. He's putting the rest of the world in trouble, and he's causing China to take a leadership position in the rest of the world, which is also going to put us in trouble. If this, the piece that you just played is true, and I have a feeling that it is, because there's evidence to prove that. There's also evidence to prove that the Chinese have been, over the history of the world, have been occupiers, and when they arrive, they don't leave. And they're not too good to people that are not Chinese. I believe there are a lot of African countries that are now complaining about how their nationals are being treated in China. We might argue, and some of our politicians who want to stay in power, who see China as the liberators to stay in power, might very well argue that this would not happen to them. And that is typical about how we think, George. But it will happen sooner or later to all of us if we become totally dependent on Chinese grant and aid. It will happen. Yes?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tie this to Ray's piece, because Ray wrote a very interesting piece, and Ray's right, absolutely right. I saw another piece on your website, George. Some guy, I don't remember his name, put together the falsehoods and the truths about what the government has been saying about Grenlec over time. And that, to me, should be a piece that should be printed and used as an insert in the newspapers, because a lot of Grenadians should have access to that information. Now, think of it. Grenlec has done this excellent job. I think all of us can testify to that. Any company taking over Grenlec right now, George, I can't see them wanting less than 100% of that company. Because as Alan has pointed out from time to time, the market is only about 60,000 people. And in those 60,000 people, you have all the hotels, which we are providing for with some special deal under the regulatory authority, SGU, and all the rooms that are now built in the True Blue area. A small percentage of the consumers are in fact John Public, you know. So I can't see a company taking over Grenlec and doing it with less than 100% of that company. Yes? Mm-hmm. Which means we're going right back into monopoly. Mm-hmm. Unless somebody knows something that I don't know, George, we're going from the frying pan into the fire.
The fire, yeah.
And we're going to regret this. And I can't help but think all the enablers that are allowing this to happen, George, all the enablers that are allowing this to happen, including some of my very good friends who are pretending that they don't see the fallout in this thing. But there's going to be a fallout. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's good now because the price of oil is coming down. In the United States, it was a negative number, you know. They had to beg people to take the oil, you know, in the United States. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was minus something or the other, huh? Because with this COVID-19, people are not traveling, so they're not consuming a lot of fuel. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the price will remain down for a while. So we will in fact enjoy a reduction in the bill that we get from Grenlec. No thanks to the government of Grenada. And this is what I don't appreciate about the enablers. The Prime Minister gets there in Parliament and talks about this 30% reduction over 3 months. Nonsense.
You know, I was very happy to see a piece that was put out by Grenlec this week, explaining to Canadians that the price drop that they're experiencing is because of the lower price of oil. You know? Yes.
And I don't know why we are so accommodating to the lyrics of the politicians of today. They're driving us down a road, George, and I don't know if we can come out, you know. And they're driving us down this road where we will have a hell of a time recovering from COVID-19.
Brian, it's because the masses out there are still very dependent. They are still under the grasp of
but there's leadership, George. There's leadership in the masses. Where's the leadership? You know, there are trade union. There's a trade union that represents the workers at Grenlec, you know, that have enjoyed all these benefits for their employees over time. But where's the leadership? You know, I mean, people. You know, let's leave that one alone, because that only time will tell, George, whether this is a good move or not. I will bet my money that we will suffer because of this move.
Trini 62. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Providing that the government of Grenada can find the money to pay Grenlec off, because I have a dangerous feeling that at the end of the day, WRB might very well be around for a while, you know, if we can't come up with the money plus interest.
I doubt. I would love to see that happen, but I doubt it's going to happen because I really do believe that the government has those resources, and there are resources that you know where those resources are coming from.
And it's a hostile environment for Grenlec, so they want to leave. I would imagine they want to leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Trini62 says, Brian, you're quite right in your assessment of Trump and the effects. Problem is, too many people fail to see how all these things are interrelated. That's right, she says. Trump leading the U.S. away from international organizations has left a vacuum in world leadership, which China has filled and is filling. So says Trini62.
Trini's absolutely right. And that is the debate that is taking place throughout the world. Yeah? I mean, there was a video conference today, I believe, or yesterday, from the World Health Organization, where a lot of countries came together and committing to do the research necessary for a vaccine. And also committing that once that vaccine is found, it must be shared at reasonable cost to the whole world. Yes, George?
Mm-hmm.
China and the United States was not present. France was there, Germany was there, a lot of other countries were there. The United States and China was not present. So they are now at the outskirts fighting for dominance. And to be quite honest with you, the Chinese have the upper hand, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because both countries, George, can print a lot of money.
Moolah.
That's what it is. And most of the politicians in this region and the African countries that are now suffering, and many parts of the world, who have an ambition of staying in power for life, need the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money in the next election campaign in Grenada. I take it, you know. Because, I mean, some of these artists that haven't worked for a long time will charge us a hefty fee to be the headliner in a campaign rally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll quickly discover that the money is there when it's really needed and not in areas where it's really needed, like healthcare, for example.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, did you hear the news today that in the United States the death toll has now risen to over 51,000?
Yes.
That's alarming, isn't it? You're talking half the population of this country, boy?
Yes, and you are talking about the majority of the Grenadian diaspora is living in the United States.
Yeah. I understand.
They're the ones that's remitting now, huh?
And I understand that more than 50 of them are gone. Grenadians.
Listen, and the United States is the lead domino. Once that domino starts to fall, we're going to suffer, George.
Yeah.
Tobias Clement, George.
I hope you're going to join me on Sunday morning, you know. I really hope you're going to join us on Sunday morning.
Well, I couldn't help but listening to a press conference, not a press conference, it was something on another radio station. He did an interview. And the leader of the opposition was trying very hard not to answer questions. Being very thoughtful and methodical in his answers. But when the question came up about money, he fell apart. And you could see him, I couldn't see him, but you know, his reaction and response was saying, listen, I deserve to be paid a little bit more. Now, my problem with Tobias Clements was, once he recognized that he couldn't work within the NNP, why didn't he leave a long time ago? Because that would have given him more money and given him the opportunity to appoint 3 senators. Yes, George?
Yeah.
So I am listening to him, and I couldn't help but thinking, but hey, nah, this guy is still green, you know. And if I know Dr. Mitchell and the NNP, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at him in the next general election, you know.
Yeah. You asked the question, why did he stay so long? You know, the same question was asked of Terry Forrester. I mean, look at Terry. Terry's ranting and raving against the NNP right now. But how long did he stay with these guys?
You know, the funny thing, George, is that anybody who leaves the NNP over the years have had a cordial kind of relationship with the NNP, you know. Although they talk about the corruption that may or may not be taking place, they never talk about it publicly, you know. Mm-hmm. They talk about everything else under the sun. Yes? Tobias is going to talk about the matter of that members of parliament should be earning more money. He will be talking about the dictatorial kind of approach to governance of the prime minister. But he wouldn't talk about some of the questions that the public has had about whether or not governance is in fact transparent. You're smiling, George.
Why should he?
You know? I don't know.
Did you hear that a contingent from the National Democratic Congress met this week with Mr. Clement? Did you hear that?
No, I didn't. I know. I don't know. That's I guess that's political maneuvering. Did we hear the result of that meeting?
No, I was hoping you had. I haven't heard the result. What I did hear, I heard two things. One, they were talking with him about, you know, possible appointments to the Senate, and two, getting back some airtime on GBN. Apparently, GBN has a segment, I think it's on Tuesday mornings, for the Leader of the Opposition. And because there has been no opposition, the NDC has been filling that slot. Well, this week they were in for a rude awakening, as I understand it, when they found that.
The question is, George, who initiated that conversation?
Which
Did
conversation?
Clement initiate the conversation between Clement and the NDC? If that conversation took place at all, who initiated the conversation?
Okay, I see
did
your
Clement call or did the NDC call? Because that's important as we go forward. Mm-hmm. But the leader of the opposition has the right to that airtime. There's a lot of perks to being leader of the opposition, you know. Mm-hmm. Maybe Clement didn't realize that a few months ago. But just to appoint 3 senators alone, and he has to get an office, I believe. I think there's a budget for the leader of the opposition's office. He can hire staff. So there's a lot of perks that go along with the leader of the opposition. Maybe you better get a constitutional expert to advise us on this. But I am surprised that he's taking this long. I would be interested to find out who initiated the conversation. Did he call the NDC or did the NDC call him?
All right. I'm going to have that question down on the list for Sunday morning. Actually, we'll give you a chance to fire that one yourself on Sunday morning. Okay. There's something else I wanted to mention too. Oh, yeah. Are you finished making your noise? Did you make noise at 7 o'clock tonight?
I heard an interesting comment, George, by a gentleman on the BBC recently. It went something like this. There is too much imitation and not enough innovation as far as COVID-19 is concerned. One cap does not fit all. You know, this morning, and I'm going to deviate for a minute. This morning, the police announced that you can go and clear a barrel. Yes? But after you clear the barrel, you could not hire a vehicle to get the barrel to where you're going. You heard that, George?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm saying to myself, but hold on. That you can make the arrangement with the agent to get your barrel home. So am I to assume that the agent will charge me for trucking the barrel from the pier to my home. Now, for those guys who are making this announcement or putting this thing into play, do they realize that people in a village will come together and the 10 or 15 barrels from that village, one truck will go down and pick them all up and bring them up? And everybody might pay $40. But you put this thing in place, but you have a piece of legislation in existence right now that say that you can't hire a vehicle. So how is this thing going to work?
You're not asking me, are you?
Too much imitation, George, and not enough innovation. So they're making noise in New York and London and Italy and Spain. Death toll is very high. The caregivers, the people who are working in a lot of these hospitals are getting infected. I hope that we are testing all the frontline people in Grenada, George, before we start making this noise, you know. Which comes first, the noise or the testing? Does that answer your question, George?
No, but I'm going to have to accept it. Because I'm running out of time here. There are a couple of comments here. Trini62 says, don't know how much remittances you will be getting this year. The World Bank already predicts a 28% drop. That is a lot for countries in the Caribbean. She also says, yes, Brian, I think that barrel thing sailed over a lot of people's head. You just put the barrel on your back and drop it like a donkey and drog it like a donkey.
I don't know. This is amazing.
Brian, they live among us. They live among us. She says, Brian, two of my docs got ill. Her docs? What docs? One is recovering. Oh, okay. One is recovering. The other remains critical. So for me, it's personal. Yeah?
Yes.
John says, in the UK, they do a mass clap for frontline workers. You know, I have to admit, I heard about this call to make noise tonight. And I'd seen it happen in other parts of the world, and I thought, okay, that's just a copycat thing. But I did not really expect that they would respond the way they did. I stood here on the balcony. I saw the fireworks on Fort George. There were yachts down in the lagoon sending up flares. Here on Willett Road, there are people beating pan and people beating boxes and so on. There was a lot of noise.
Which is good.
Very good. Yes. I was very pleasantly surprised. However, I then phoned my sister, who lives right next to Excel Plaza in Grand Anse. And she says, they noticed absolutely nothing going on down there. So it seemed like a city thing that, happened tonight.
Well, I would prefer if they came out tomorrow and tell me that that all the frontline people were tested and they're all okay. They're all negative. Because I don't know, George, if we've seen the end of this thing, because we have some workers that will be home soon from the cruise ships. Mm-hmm. Now, I imagine they'll be quarantined for the 14 days. But this virus, you can carry the virus and not get too sick, huh?
Yeah. I'm sure you heard the superintendent of the police mention this morning. He was asked of all the people in the police force, how many had been tested? Didn't have an answer. He was not even sure how many people he had in this force. I think he said about 1,100 people, but he had no clue as to how many had been tested. That sort of supports the point you were just making.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's going to do it, Brian. Boy, again, let me remind you, Sunday morning, 10:30, Sunday morning. 10:30.
Just quickly before I go, George. Just quickly before I go. You had a very interesting program this week when you were talking about food security.
Oh, Sunday.
Was it Sunday?
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but notice the average age of those people talking about food security, George, might have been late 20s, early 30s.
Absolutely.
They're young people.
Yeah.
They're young people, George, talking about food security and agriculture, which gives me hope. But you know what was missing from that conversation, George?
Tell me.
Where is the money going to come from? Now, I remember a conversation that we had with Tessa Barry and Michael Archibald was having this conversation
Right.
about whether or not it's a good investment to invest in agriculture. And I don't think that Tessa was too happy with the response that she got. The traditional banking institutions do not see agriculture as a viable venture.
Yeah.
So where these 5 people that you had on that program, they all spoke very well. They have great plans, but I couldn't help but thinking, now where are they going to get the money from to not only go into agriculture, but to add value to whatever they are producing.
You know, Brian, I thank you for pointing out the fact that it was a good program, because I've since spoken with Tessa, and she was telling me that as a result of that program, that group has now been approached by a radio station in Dominica who want them to appear on their station as well and do something similar. She also pointed out that that program is being widely circulated globally. So yeah, we did hit on something there. Okay, my bro. By the way, I like your shade of green tonight.
Different shades of green. No one particular shade. And maybe I should lend this shirt to Mr. Clement when he come on your program on Sunday. Yeah, different shades of green. Have a nice evening, George.
You too, Brian. You too. God bless you, my
Take
friend.
care.
Go ahead.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us
As we energize our spice island.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Conveniently located in the Grandstand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Granadas will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep,
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
More businesses given the go-ahead to open on business days in the coming week. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Friday, April 24th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Additional businesses will open in the coming week as restrictions are further eased during the curfew period. Head of the Community Relations Department, Superintendent Vannie Kerwin, said during a press conference on Friday, businesses are given clearance to open on the deliberation of Cabinet. The Grenada Customs and Excise Department and the Grenada Ports Authority were opened on Friday to facilitate the clearance of barrels and personal effects.
The Grenada Customs Authority and the Grenada Ports Authority have worked out a structure or a mechanism to facilitate the clearing of barrels and personal items from the St. George's Port. However, because this is not business as normal, there has to be a procedure that has to be built in to ensure that we maintain all of the protocols that have been established. So this is how the barrels are going to be rolled out. Different companies that brings in barrel into the country will be given specific days on the business days, which are already established as Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So these businesses will be given specific days to enter the pier and clear those barrels. Having done that, these businesses will contact the consignee or the customer so as to come to the port to process or collect those barrels. I want to make this point here clear. Customers should only appear at the St. George's Port having been contacted by the agents of these companies and not just make their way to the port to clear barrels on their own independent decision or independent judgment.
People who have barrels on the port are encouraged not to show up at the St. George's Port unless they are contacted by the agency responsible for the barrel, indicating that the paperwork has been completed and it is cleared for collection.
This process of the clearing of barrels will continue until all barrels are cleared. These will be done on the business days of Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And customers or consignee should only come to the port having been called by an agent to say that your barrel is ready for processing or for collecting.
Superintendent Kerwin says, however, notwithstanding the fact that barrel services are opened, the law remains in effect. He explains further procedures people need to follow in the absence of public transport and no vehicle for hire.
It means, therefore, that the consignee will have to make arrangement to be able to have those barrels from the port without violating the law. If the agent call you and say that your barrel is ready for pickup, you can have a conversation with the agent. The agent might be able to get the barrel to you, rather than you having to hire a transportation. It has to be an arrangement between yourself or the consignee and the agent. So if you have your personal transportation, you can use your personal transportation so to do. And if you do not have a personal transportation, I want to advise that you have that conversation with the agency to see what sort of assistance the agency can provide to you. But it is still the law that there should be no transportation for hire. So that's an arrangement you can make between consignee and the company.
The Caribbean Examination Council says all examinations in June and July will be done online through the e-testing platform. Countries in the region have been waiting with bated breath as negotiations and discussions regarding the 2020 examinations for CXC, CAPE, CCLSC, and CPEA were held, taking into consideration the extent of changes that must be made in the fight against COVID-19. Several schools were closed across the region as governments took proactive measures to ensure the safety of students. But many have been questioning government's readiness to conduct examinations online. Head of the examinations unit, Michelle Peters, boasted during a recent press conference that Grenada is definitely ready and capable of conducting exams electronically.
Grenada is one of the forerunners, I must tell you, in terms of e-testing. We were one of the first countries to move towards the e-testing offered by the Caribbean Examinations Council, where we have for CSEC, for instance, more than half, over 60% of our subjects are already being done paper. One, that is, it has already been done through electronic means. So that's something that we have to look forward to. However, in terms of the CPA aspect of it, we're looking to turn our secondary schools into centers, whereas in the past we looked at primary schools as centers for the examination. We're looking at the secondary schools so that we can accommodate that, because this would be the first time that the Caribbean Examinations Council will be offering the e-testing for the CPA examination.
During a CXC webinar on Thursday, CXC Exams Administration representative Diane Medford explained that each country was given the opportunity to perform readiness checks and indicate whether or not they are capable of conducting the examinations.
The ministries are the ones that are advising CXC that they're ready. So your ministry would have been doing their readiness checks and so on, and then they will determine, well, these centers are ready and so on. So we are working to ensure that the transition is basically seamless. We do recognize that there are some areas where the internet is more stable and so on. You do have the fully online mode, the partially online mode, which we are promoting. And we work with the ministries to ensure that as we move forward that they are ready.
There are concerns about power outages and internet failure during the exam. Registrar Wayne Wesley said CXC will make hard copies and backup batteries available to each examination center.
In areas where we do have infrastructure challenges, schools and the various territories are facing challenges with internet and all those issues associated with the infrastructure that is required, we will still make available the associated paper-based modality to ensure that none of our candidates would be disadvantaged or disenfranchised simply because they don't have access to the technology. We would have been doing making available several platforms like our CXC Learning Hub, which is Learning Hub at cxc.org, where students, teachers will find very useful information in assisting them in their preparation.
They have been utilizing laptops which would have backup batteries. So during the time of the exam, if there's a power outage, the candidate still has the opportunity to complete the examination.
The timetable for the June and July exams will be made available in the coming week. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
Welcome back. Tire shops, auto mechanic services and maintenance, and auto parts shops have been given the green light to operate on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays as authorities continue to gradually relax on restrictions imposed as a result of the threat of the COVID-19 virus. The announcement by Superintendent Vanny Kerwin, head of the Community Relations Department. He urged the businesses to work within the guidelines to avoid retraction of these facilities and appealed to the general public to exercise control.
However, these businesses must operate by appointments only in order to maintain control and prevent clustering. Persons therefore should call into these businesses to make an appointment, and these businesses should create a schedule in order to minimize congestion. It is not the case where you just show up at a part shop or at a tire shop. You're asked to make an appointment with a particular business who is obligated to create a schedule and let you know what time of the day will be most prudent so you can show up.
Superintendent Kerwin also clarified which businesses in the manufacturing sector were given permission to open.
The manufacturing companies that were focused on in this period were the manufacturers of PPEs, personal protective equipment, hand sanitizers, food and drink suppliers, and manufacturers of other essential services. No other manufacturing businesses should be open. We have had several calls and concerns about furniture shops and mattresses companies, etc., that felt that the announcement speaks to them, and I do wish to clear that up this morning as we go forward.
Crowd density is something he says the RGPF will be paying particular attention to, ensuring that businesses operate by schedule to avoid clustering. DHL, FedEx and QuickPack, along with the Grenada Postal Service, have also been cleared to operate on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Finally, in the news, while the law was passed and the wearing of masks in public places has become mandatory in the Tri-Island, a policy decision was made by the police force under the direction of the Commissioner of Police to not make any arrests. However, officer in charge of the Community Relations Department, Superintendent Vanny Kerwin, says fines can be imposed if the rules are not adhered to.
Although it remains part of the legislation the policy now is that, and the new regulation has made provision for ticketing. And so it is advisable that we ticket for not wearing the mask as opposed to arresting for not wearing the mask. So you can be ticketed if you're not wearing a mask. All right, and the fine under the ticket is in the first instance $500, in the second instance $750, and in the third or subsequent instances $1,000, as opposed to an arrestable offense where we go straight to $1,000 or 12 months imprisonment. All right, and we want to urge people that the mask has not been done away with. It is still in the regulation. You're still advised to wear the mask, particularly when you're entering or in the line for businesses in particular. If you're traveling in a motor vehicle with more than one person, you're obligated to wear that mask. And remember that there should be one person in each row of the vehicle. So once there is more than one person in the vehicle, both parties are urged to wear masks.
Head of the Community Relations Department, Superintendent Vanny Cohen. That story just ended the national report for today, Friday, April 24th. Let's recap the top story. More businesses given the go-ahead to open on business days in the coming week. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Hey Lynn.
Hey neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Conveniently located in the Grenada Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair granaries will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep,
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Nice little get together here again this evening, folks. And this is where we're going to pull the curtain down. But not before we share with you some inspirational words during these very trying and difficult times. Tonight's reading comes to you from the book of Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 6, verses 10 to 15. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. We want each of you to show the same diligence to the very end, so that what you hope for may be fully realized. We do not want you to become lazy, but to imitate those who, through faith and patience, inherit what has been promised. When God made his promise to Abraham, since there was no one greater for him to swear by, he swore by himself, saying, I will surely bless you and give you many descendants. And so, after waiting patiently, Abraham received what was promised. Hebrews 6, 10 to 15. No different with us. If we wait patiently. Remember that passage somewhere that says, be still and know that I am God. Yeah. Let that be your hope, my dear friends. Okie dokie, let's see here. It says, thanks, George and Brian. Interesting program. Keep well and safe. Blessings to all. Yeah. Thank you. Yada, yada, yada. Aha. This is where we're going to pull the curtain down. With thanks. And as you heard, got a very interesting program coming your way on Sunday. And we hope that many of you will be able to join us. Tobias Clement and some other stuff as well. Toby is going to be the headliner. And let's find out what this guy is really made of. How about that? But let's also stop and probably change what we are made of. You know, we have become so belligerent, so arrogant, so pompous, so hateful. We don't want to see anybody succeed. Huh? We're just ready to point at everybody's fault, forgetting that every time we point a finger, There are four fingers pointing back at us. Yeah. Let's try and encourage people to be the people we want them to be, rather than hating them or pointing out what's so wrong with them. Did you hear Archbishop a few weeks ago? He said the same thing. He said we're quick to point to other people, failing to look at ourselves. Take a look at yourself in the mirror. You'll see where the problem really lies. God bless you, my dear friends.